So we're learning the Maamar Vata Titzave. We're in the middle of chapter 10. It's the last part is very difficult, and I want to speak about it orally, and then we'll see about learning inside. But what it touches upon is a very important issue, very important. And what's the issue? The issue is when we serve Hashem, that service, that motivation, is it coming from who we are, or is it coming from something outside of who we are that we follow? In other words, is it just behavior, or is it essence? So you know how we say the person is not bad, their behavior is bad, right? That idea. The same concept is what we're touching now. When something is good, what part of you is the good? Is it you, or it's not you? It's something outside of you that you, for whatever reason, follow. And the difference.
Rebbe, how does the Nefesh Bahamas play into this?
Okay, give me a second. I'm getting to that. The difference is exactly to what you just mentioned. If it's you, if it's who you are, that means, and when we say if it's who you are, we mean your mind and your heart, your seichel and your midos are in sync. And not just are in sync, they are the driving force of facilitating your soul's wishes. So that someone could say, look, my commitment to Hashem, I understand it and I feel it. And my understanding and my feelings support and not only support and say it has to be this way to serve Hashem. It has to be this way to jump into the fire for God. It has to be this way to have faith and trust in Hashem. Then the Nefesh Habamis has nowhere to go, because you've come to a place where Yoni, your Nefesh Habamis is saying that. That's the point. Anything other than that means that your Nefesh Habamis, your animal drive, disagrees. And the only reason why it cooperates is because it's been put on hold, it's been overpowered, it's been sidelined. And as soon as it wakes up from its situation, it'll come back to haunt you in a very bad way. I don't know if this is, what I'm going to say now is a good example. Isser, you're the physician, you could tell me. But Rahman Litzlan, there are illnesses, and one in particular that I've heard about, where the illness can be reduced, subsided, become dormant, and then if it comes back with a vengeance. Maybe we could say that that's the same thing over here, since you mentioned the Nefesh Habamis. As long as your mind and your heart aren't in sync with Hashem, then the fact that you have Mesiras Nefesh, it's a momentary fleeting Mesiras Nefesh. And a momentary, I don't mean just a moment, it can be for years. Like the Rebbe said yesterday, like he taught us, you could, in Russia, you were ready to give your life for Hashem, right? All of a sudden, you come to a free country, you want to chill out, you want to relax, you want to let me breathe. What does that tell you? That tells you that even while you did the Mesiras Nefesh, it wasn't you, it was something imposed on you, whether it was the fear of being killed or your commitment to Hashem. And And believe me, that's a very special thing. That's a high level as well. It's not small change, but it's nevertheless not you. So what we're getting at in this over here in this discussion is this idea. Is my commitment to Hashem who I am? In other words, I've become so one with it that, like I said earlier in the Maamar, I cannot rebel. Not that I could rebel, but I choose not to. Impossible. Why is it impossible? Because if you're a human being that has a mind and heart, and you've come to a place where your nefesh abamis, your mind and heart, I'm calling your nefesh abamis, the way we think, and you know what I'm saying, the average way of indulging and enjoying and benefiting and pleasuring and all of that, where the mind and heart says, I follow you, Hashem, but there are times I take a break. I need some space. Now, this is a very delicate issue because we do need space, right? There are people that come down so hard on themselves. They're very hard on themselves. That they feel guilty. Should you feel guilty? Here's the question, Chaim Zev. Should you feel guilty when you know you're not doing everything Hashem wants? Is that type of feeling bad, wrong, or good? And the answer is it depends. If that guilt comes from who you are, then it's not good guilt because that's not who you are. If the guilt comes from you know you're not doing what you're supposed to, and you could do better, then that guilt is good. In other words, you need something to constantly get you to go. In other words, because you are not yet plugged in from a nefesh abamis perspective, from a human perspective with your heart or your mind, what's going to get you to move? What's going to get you to grow? So you need to have an element that pushes you, that, well, there are different elements. One of them is called, I don't know if the word guilt is the right word, but one of them is the constant demand that you do better. Right? So you have a Rav, you have a Mashpia, you have a Rebbe, you have a Tzaddik, you have a Gadol, whatever, right? If you see their demands, suggestions, and and everything else as I must do. In other words, I can't do it, but they're there to push me, to help me. That's a good thing. Every one of us wants to have something to help us grow. And this is the discussion over here, although the Rebbe uses Chasidus and some Kabbalah to talk about it. So in Chabad Chasidus, we have the following two words that we're discussing here. One is called Etzem, and one's called Tziur. Etzem means essence. Tziur means condition and form. That's the word, the best word, I think. Form. And Chabad Chasidus teaches that if the tziur, if the form is not permeated with the essence to the point where the form expresses essence and is essence, then you're good, but your nefesh abamis has a place, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening in our lives, in every day, every moment, and in the world. How much of you is essence, and does that essence include your form? Yes, sir.
The way that you just framed it triggered in my mind the phrase "tocho koporo."
Yes. Say that in English. What's tohu paro?
Your inside has to be like your outside.
Exactly. That's it.
Okay.
100%. That would be the right Talmudic expression to express the idea here. But to emphasize and understand this, sir, that when we say inside should be like the outside, right? In other words, the inside as it's expressed through the mind and the heart, not the inside as soul, not the inside as Mesiras Nefesh, but to feel crushed, to feel bad about something, right? For a moment, let's not talk about feeling bad that we're in Golos, right? Because that's the discussion here. But to really feel bad, you have to feel it in your mind and heart. If you don't understand it and you don't feel it, then the feeling that you feel bad about something, right, it bothers you, it's not touching you. It's touching something outside of you that for some reason touches you. You know, it's like, a sentimental feeling.
It's a very high bar because, to expose yourself, to open yourself up to feeling that crushed by your own inadequacies, that's a heavy trip. That's a really heavy trip.
Okay. I can't disagree with you 100%. But ultimately, I mean, our therapist is not here, but ultimately, if you don't come to that point, then in a way, as Yoni said, the Nefesh Abamis will come back, not can come back, will come back and haunt you. So when you say it's a heavy trip, it is a heavy trip, but that's why the more we're real with ourselves and we know ourselves. And that means that we, on one hand, assess our weaknesses, and at the same time, we acknowledge with our mind and our heart that this is who I am today. I want to become better. I want to do more. I want to not only in behavior, but change the way I think about things. This is what we call in psychology the paradigm shift. I think that's exactly what we're talking about here, is changing the paradigm. And we all know that's the hardest thing. You could talk to, I don't care if the person is, tzaddik and a rabbi, people to change. And I'm not even, the question whether you really are changing, but at least, in other words, do you really want to change? Or you say you want to change? It sounds good to change. I want to change today, but not tomorrow. Yes, it's a high bar. It's a very hard avodah, but it's at the end. If you don't include Yutzior, if the form does not get it, then there's always the chance. Now, I say there's always the chance. I should take back what I said before. It could be a person will live his lifetime and go into Gan Eden where he doesn't change the form, but because he's been overwhelmed and superimposed something greater that keeps him in check. It's possible, right? If you live in a community where everyone's doing something, you don't want to be a pariah, you don't want to be an outcast, and it could be you'll remain that way. But in your heart of hearts, in your own bedroom, in your own room, in your own house, and in your mind, you don't agree. So you have conflict in mind, and it's very painful. I'm dealing with such a situation today with in counseling, different things, that people are living with deep conflict in their mind. So we have to tackle that, and that's an avodah, and it's uncomfortable. And guess what? You don't always succeed, but we know what's important is the progress, and and ultimately the emunah and betachon in Hashem, realizing Hashem loves us and Hashem wants our best, and And I always, point, how the Rebbe, okay, the Rebbe was a tzaddik, but on a human level, he could have easily had much to complain about. Being born in 1902, passing on in 1994, a century of war, famine, illness, no children, family. It could easily have given up. Not only did Rebbe not give up, he demands of everyone in the letters that he writes to the greatest Chassidim and people who are activists. No, there's no room for morbidity. In Hebrew, Maamar Vata, the black gall,
Ain't shum yish.
Ain't shum yish, but yish is a depression, right? Maamar Vata is a form of depression, but it doesn't mean that you reach the lowest of the low and you're depressed, chas v'sholom. But even if you're like negative, you know what I'm saying? Negative. We always find, and I look around, and when I see a person who doesn't live that way, not that I'm jealous. I really, it's unbelievable. For me, it's unbelievable. Because it's so easy to see fault. It's so easy to see problems. Tell you a discussion. Just had a discussion with someone. Tells me about, family, kids get married. They come to a certain event, and someone is not dressed sneakers and proper. So he's very bothered by that. And I said to him, I was bothered by that too for quite a while. But I thought about it and keep on thinking about it and knocking it into my head. What the Alter Rebbe says at the end of chapter 2 in Tanya, that the soul of a person, the neshama of a person, is their own. The parents have the schus and merit, b'shas intimacy, to bring kedusha, tara, and different things, But at the end of the day, it's not you parent, not us parents. It's the kid that has a neshama that's, and I said, if we come to understand that and believe it and see it, then you're not going to see bad in your kid who's doing contrary to what you want. It doesn't mean to say that you get a free pass and you can come into my house and smoke on Shabbos. A little derech eretz, So let's work out a compromise. But their smoking on Shabbos is their issue, okay? Between them and Hashem. That's it. And guess what? We're not happy about it. Too bad. Hashem says, I am happy about it. What do you mean I'm happy? I don't want them to smoke on Shabbos. It's wrong. It's against the Torah. But they have to work that out in their mind and heart, in their form. That's the point. So a kid can grow up in a house, and the parents are frum, the grandparents are frum, and the community is frum, and all that, but it's all superimposed on them. They have to get deep down in the trenches and get themselves dirty and work out the issues. And that's why one of the things that the Lone Soldier program you have in Eretz Yisrael and all of that, for so many kids, it's a gewaltige Gesach. I'm not talking about now, Zionistic, and I'm not coming from, I'm just talking about, or American Army. There are kids that need a good kick in, the butt, and they need that to wake up and become a mensch. And then you see they come back, and they come back chazak. They come back strong. Sei in Yiddishkeit, sei in Menschlichkeit. They're no lazy bums. They get a job, or they go to school. I pay for them tuition. They're going to yeshiva. They're going to a girls' school. Go to seminary. Go to yeshiva. And they like waste their time. So what I'm saying is that's the tziyur. That's the form that the Rebbe talks about in this Maamar here when he talks about Mesiras Nefesh. So now let's go to the point that he's making here. And that is that the idea of crushed is deeper than Mesiras Nefesh. You know why? Because crushed means you are crushed. You, whoever you are, like Isa says, body, you're inside, like you're outside, right? Your inside feels crushed. Not my godliness feels crushed. Not my Yom Kippur feels crushed. On Yom Kippur, you feel crushed? Of course. Where it's Yom Kippur. I want to see if you feel crushed in Wyoming or at a rodeo, at a baseball game. Do you feel crushed? Here's a baseball game or a football game or a soccer match or another pleasure taking us, right? Where it's all about beauty, nature, pleasure, blah, 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 right? Do you say to yourself, but at the end of the day, this is ghosts. Where's Mashiach? Where am I in all this? Do I feel that way? And that's what he says. So Mesiras Nefesh that Jews had in the oppressed countries like Russia and Europe pre-Holocaust, etc., pre-Stalin, during Stalin and all that, right? That was a gewaldige level, but it's not necessarily the form. And the proof is in the pudding. What's the pudding? When you come to the free society, how do you live? How do you live? So this is why this chapter, although it really goes into intricacies, and if you see the notes here that Elio Tauga wrote, they're very extensive. As I was reading them in preparation, it's like my Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab that I learned, years ago. But I tried now communicating it to you in a way that's understandable. And it's, from your own profession, to become a physician, you have to stay up nights and work very hard. So, that's it. That's
Reminds me of a saying that everybody wants to be a Talmid Chacham overnight, but they also want to get a good sleep that night.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like there was a Rosh Hashiva in the Bir Yeshiva in Brooklyn. I don't know if you heard his name, Rabbi Shmuel Berenbaum. He was a mere Talmud from Europe, and he became the Rosh Hashiva. And what?
Okay.
What'd you say?
Yeah. He was the Rosh Hashiva when I was in Chaim Berlin.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
So he would always say, a Talmud Chacham is not someone that learns; it's someone that chazars the Gemara. Chazara. What's shot? Learning is learning, exciting to learn. But the question is whether you're going to really remember the learning or whether the learning is going to become part of you. So like I told you once, you see that video, there's a video out there, him and Rabbi Bakst, another Talmud Chacham, I guess in Mir, and they come to a wedding, and they're sitting at one table, and they're tearing each other apart in a piece of Gemara. It's laughable on one hand, but it's really powerful. It's really powerful. Whether you're a Chassid or a Litvak, that makes no difference. They're not interested in the food. They're sitting at a wedding. You would think they're waiting for the meal, or they want to. They're elsewhere. They have to be at the wedding. It's simcha. They're there. It's their student. But where are they? Where are they really in the Gemara? So that's what we're talking about. That's the tzir. That's the tzir, the form. That the mind and heart, and that's when you feel that's when you can feel the crush. And that's what the Rebbe is getting at over here. That when it says in the Maamar, Kosis Lamoed, that only the Kosis position, the crushed position, reaches the illuminary, he says, you know why? And not the Mesiras Nefesh. He's making the distinction here, a very subtle nuance. Crushed versus Mesiras Nefesh. He's saying Mesiras Nefesh, as much as it is, could be because the soul sees God. So it says, therefore, if God's in front of you and you see him, I'm jumping into the fire. Crushed is, no. I don't see God, I see myself. And by seeing myself, I know that this is the right thing to do, because this is who I am, a Yid. And therefore, I'll do whatever Hashem. And so in a situation like when you don't have to have Mesiras Nefesh, because that period, in a sense, is finished. Although in Eretz Yisrael you have plenty of Mesiras Nefesh, the sense, the feeling that we're in Golus, and and it should bother us. And I want to say, the point is not to become morbid and depressed. I'm in Golus, and therefore, oy vey. No. The point is, what am I going to do about it? What am I doing about it that I'm in Golus? You have all these kids in Bet Shemesh and in Lakewood and here, there, teens that are, what are we doing about it? Are we just complaining? Oy! How can we have them in our community? They're violating Shabbos, they're hanging out with girls, Do something about it. Put your money in. Do something about it. So the Nakuda of Kossis is not to leave us with a morbidity. It's in other words, Geula is not here. Golus is prevalent. What are you going to do today in your world and in your mind and in your house to uproot Golus? And that's doable. That's doable. Chevra, we're going to stop here, Mr. Shem, and we'll continue the next chapter on Monday, Mr. Shem. Have a great Shabbos,
Great
everyone.
Stuff, Rebbe. This
What?
Is great stuff. I never learned this before. This is unbelievable.
Good. Review it and share it. Sei gesund. Take care. Good Shabbos, Jay.
Good
Bye-bye.
Shabbos.